Yes, people, welcome to Grounded Football. It's Monday night. It's first 11. It's Grounded Football. It's Liverpool first 11 Grounded Football. I'm joined with some great guests tonight. I'm joined by Jimmy, Mick, and Doug. Jimmy, how are we?
Good, mate. How are you?
I'm going to give you the opportunity to plug your superb video now, mate, the one you did on Robbie, because that's the subject of tonight. So go on, mate, give us the rundown.
Yeah, mate. I appreciate it. Oh, he's here. He's here. Rack's here. He's here. He's turned up.
Hello.
You all right, Rack?
Yeah,
Go
sorry,
on, Jimmy, you were saying about your video.
Apologies.
No worries. Go on, Jimmy, tell us about your video, mate.
Yeah, well, obviously, mate. Appreciate you asking me to come on this episode with it being the Robbie Fowler thing, and like I said, yeah, appreciate the feedback I've had so far. So we did on the Cop Out podcast, we did an origins episode of Robbie Fowler. So it's a 40-minute documentary on the life and career of Robbie Fowler while he was at Liverpool, and touch on a little few things about City and Leeds and stuff. But yeah, it's for basically for the new generation, for those that didn't really grow up watching Robbie Fowler like we did. It's a chance for people to really go back and look at the memories, really, because the story hasn't really been told from a fan channel perspective. And I thought, why not give that to everybody? It's a little bit of nostalgia in there, if you like Hulk Hogan and you like Mighty Ducks and you like Chicago Bulls, that's all in there as well. All the stuff that's happened in 1993. But the feedback on it's been great so far, and I appreciate everybody who's watched it. And go and check it out. Just search Robbie Fowler on YouTube and it'll come up.
So I would strongly endorse that. It is really, really good watch. It's 43 minutes, well spent. There's a lot of things on there that people didn't know about Robbie Fowler. I was fortunate enough to be working in the second Wade Smith, the one before they put the climbing wall in there on the other side of the building.
Yeah.
And I used to speak to Robbie Fowler all the time when he broke into the team. And when he broke his leg, he was in there every day. He's a dead down-to-earth guy, mate. So Grounded Football is a good place to talk about Robbie Fowler for me, because that's what this is about. This is about sort of a non-reactionary, calm podcast, not screaming and shouting at each other. It's a bit chilled, But Robbie Fowler's a great topic to speak about. I can't strongly recommend enough. Go and watch that video. I watched it twice because I didn't even know he came to the club under a different name. So you learn something every time you look at it, don't you?
Yeah.
So good, mate. Well done.
Thanks,
massive big up and kudos for you for doing that. You're wasted. Whatever you do for a living, stop doing it and go and make films like that, mate. Because it's pretty good, mate. To be fair.
Thanks, mate.
First time on for Mick. No worries, mate. First time on for Mick. Not without lack of trying. We probably bounced 20 or 30 messages backwards and forwards trying to get him on, but here he is in his all technicolor. How you doing, Mick? You recovered from the weekend?
Yeah, good, mate. Yeah, still recovering from a little bit of drink I had yesterday, but yeah, all good. Happy to be on this special episode to talk about the man that is named God. So yeah, looking forward to get stuck into it.
Sound, you don't get that name for nothing, do you? Doug, you okay, buddy?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Can I just mention something else about Jay's other video, Patrick Berger? Go and watch that. Absolutely magnificent. The job he put into that was fantastic. So I would highly recommend that one and the Robbie Fowler video.
No, Doug, thanks, mate. That's honestly really kind of you, mate. And I promise, I haven't asked him to say that at all. It's just I really appreciate it. Yeah, well, you give him the tenner. But yeah, no, honestly, mate, I appreciate it. And you know what? One of the best things about doing those videos is seeing the feedback of what you guys like to see and the changes to make in the next episode. So they'll just get better and better. And then obviously the highlight of both the videos so far is that both players have got in touch with me over it. So that's just like, 12-year-old, 13-year-old me is just like giddy as a kipper right now. Even the 35-year-old me is fucking giddy about it. So yeah, no, I appreciate it, mate. But yeah, Paddy Berger one was really good as well, mate, if I do say so myself.
Yeah, it was, mate. It was. Well done, Doug. Good shout, that. And finally, our late entrance, Brack. How are you, buddy? You okay?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Steve. Good. Actually, I just wanted to echo what Doug said. Patrick Berger documentary was brilliant. Like, he's a bit of an unsung hero, Patrick Berger. Like, I think, well, maybe Liverpool fans appreciate him to some extent, perhaps more the younger ones, maybe not so much. Or he's not as well regarded as others. But yeah, certainly, I remember when we bought him after Euro '96, after Karol Poborski scored that great goal against Schmeichel, and he was getting all the headlines, and then. Yeah, Patrick Berger will end up being a much better player than him for in England. So that was ironic. And look, I mean, I haven't seen the Fowler documentary, but if there's one player in growing up that deserved his nickname of God, it was Robbie. And I mean, just that hat trick. I remember watching that hat trick in London at my mate's grandmother's house because she had Sky and I didn't have Sky at home. And he's an Arsenal fan. So getting that 3-something minute hat trick against sitting in an Arsenal fan's house was one of my great memories growing up. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
And in typical Robbie Fowler fashion, he said something totally controversial about that in the years to follow, about what footballers shouldn't do, but he did do a couple of minutes before the game. So, interesting comments from him. Never too far away from controversy, little comments and things he did, was he? But I think that's what we loved about him. He was a lad off the streets, wasn't he? And he wasn't asked to be upset or how he went about things. And I think that's the appeal, really, isn't it? So before we get into the Robbie Fowler, Rack and Doug, did you watch the England game?
Bits and bobs, I would say. Bits and bobs.
Right. Okay. Well,
I didn't. I heard a little bit about Trent playing in midfield and the comments that I read and heard people saying that he wasn't that great. But I didn't. I mean, England World Cup qualifiers and Euro qualifiers, I don't really bother that much, to be honest.
Well, this will be very short and sweet then. Yes, he did play in midfield, and I watched it purposely for that reason because it's something quite a lot of our fan base mentions from time to time, and I don't think it works particularly well. I thought he had a bit of a chip on his shoulder. He's kind of like he took a free kick just before the end of the first half, and it was a shocker. It was an absolute shocker. So leave him at fullback. He likes to have nobody behind him when he can pick up the ball in space and use it. It doesn't help players who are not used to having people behind them. Totally off subject. I think that's why Mo Salah would struggle playing every week through the middle because he needs space behind him to operate in. But that's a different story. So on to our main topic tonight, our only topic tonight, which is Robbie Fowler. And it's fair to say he was a prodigious talent. So being sort of working in the city for me and working in Wade Smith and rubbing shoulders with the players, Robbie kind of came through a bit low key. Is that fair to say, Jimmy? Do you think his arrival on the scene was a bit low key compared to some others?
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to think about the timing of it as well in terms of when he was breaking through and where Liverpool were. We had such an amazing squad when he was coming through, so there wasn't really the clamour to look at youth because we had such a good squad. So he did sort of come under the radar, but obviously the limelight was sort of shone on the youth team when Steve McManaman broke into the team. So it was sort of like, oh, hey up, what are Liverpool doing? So when Mackleb was brought in, it was sort of paved the way a little bit for Fowler in terms of the anticipation, but it was straight from the off. I mean, a lot of people don't realise this is that Fowler was obviously first attracted to the club when Kenny was manager, and that's how far back we go with the Robbie Fowler story when he signed for Liverpool. So yeah, it was sort of under the radar. I mean, a lot of stuff was under the radar back then when you don't have the level of social media and everything you have. But yeah, it definitely was a bolt out the blue in terms of what we got, and absolutely incredible talent.
I mean, Rack, you look at the way that Michael Owen was portrayed as a second coming of a world-class striker to come in and sort of play alongside Robbie and eventually take his place, because obviously some years between them. Why the difference? But do you think it's because of what Jimmy just said, that we'd seen Robbie come through, we'd seen Maka come through, we'd seen Carragher come through? Do you think that what Jimmy just said is right? Do you think there was the media had woken up to the good stuff that Steve Highway and the guys at the club were doing?
Yeah, I don't. I was a kid at the time, so it's difficult to know. I just, even though Owen obviously came after them, from my perspective, I kind of Fowler was the star of those of that young crop of players that came through. Like, don't get me wrong, I loved Maka. He was obviously, he could run the ball, dribble, he could take anybody. I remember that goal he scored against Celtic where he basically took the whole team on. But I don't know. Obviously, Owen, he was the good-looking kind of golden boy. He kind of burst onto the scene and then did it for England, and it was a bit more of at a World Cup. It kind of perhaps captured people's imaginations a little bit, because I remember the first game or two of that World Cup, England weren't really didn't do that well, and then obviously it was against Argentina that he scored that incredible goal too. Whereas I think Robbie basically hit the ground running from the start, but was a little bit I'd say unassuming, but he just wasn't seen in the same light. But he was just I remember his finishes. Like he just passed the ball into the corner of the goal. Didn't have to be. I don't know. So many goals. Like I remember a goal he scored against Villa where he turned Steve Staunton inside out with a left flick and smacked it in from 25 yards. And I think it was FA Cup perhaps, but yeah, it was. I don't know the reasons. I don't remember the times as clearly, but I just remember his impact being great. And at the time, he's my favourite player by far.
Cool. Mick, coming to you, obviously Ian Rush was sort of coming towards the end of his career. I know how I felt when Robbie Fowler emerged on the scene. And we always talk about it being low key. Certainly his first two games, particularly his home game, that certainly wasn't low key, was it? So looking back on that, how did you feel when this young lad burst onto the scene and scored 5 goals at home?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he was just a tremendous talent from day one, wasn't he? Obviously, I was born in '89, so obviously when he came into the team in '93, I probably weren't old enough then to really appreciate just how good he was. But I mean, you've just only got to look at the numbers that he put up each year. Obviously, as his time came to an end at Liverpool, the first time anyway, 2001, he obviously weren't playing as much with injuries and falling out with managers or assistant managers and whoever else. But yeah, you could just see like he just knew where the goal was, and it's that type of. I mean, if you liken him to a player now, I would liken him to Diogo Jota. To be honest, the way he strikes the ball, and it's kind of like it looks like he's mishit it, but left foot, right foot, header, just great at everything. And he had an absolute rocket of a left foot on him, and he was just it was, and it's always better when it's one of your own as well. Like coming through, obviously it was Macher, and then obviously like you said, Michael Owen coming through the ranks and. There's always been that pathway, and I think he was one of the main ones that kind of gets us excited for youth players coming through the ranks now, because he set the example, and those type of players like Fowler set the bar so high that we kind of expected it from a lot of the young players, and it did put a lot of maybe undue pressure on players that came after him. But him and himself, he was just he's one of the best that the Prem's ever seen, and he's definitely one of the best Liverpool have ever had. So we were lucky to have him. He's lucky that he was born and bred on Merseyside and played for us.
Absolutely, the Toxteth Terrier, quite right. Doug, obviously you're probably the youngest of our guests this evening. So just to summarise with you, you probably watch YouTube videos like Jimmy's. You probably spent some time looking at it. From someone who didn't experience much of Fowler, if at all, in terms of his career, what's your thoughts on him, having looked at what you've looked at and studied him the way you would have done as a younger Liverpool fan?
Oh, he's just incredible, isn't he? Like left foot, right foot, free kick taker. Like well, obviously said about the header. Actually, I was actually lucky enough to actually watch him play. My first ever Liverpool game was I think it was the 27th of February, 2007. We beat Sheffield United 4-0, and Robbie Fowler scored 2. I think Crouch got 1. I think Steven Gerrard got 1. So I was sort of seeing him towards sort of the end of his career, but what a phenomenal player he was. That hat trick, like obviously from like watching Premier League years, you realize like how good he was. That hat trick against Arsenal, the famous celebration as well. He was just absolutely phenomenal, and I think it's a shame that obviously injuries did play a bit of part of his career as well. He didn't really play for England, didn't he? I think that's maybe one of his regrets as well. I've been lucky to meet him as well at a convention as well. So lovely guy, and he was a fantastic player.
Well, we'll touch on his injuries and the England experience, because I've listened to all of the God Pods, which he speaks to players about things quite a lot. So you can get quite a lot from that. So I'm sure we'll discuss that in a little bit. I think just to close this section, for me, I'm a bit older than you guys. So I grew up watching Ian Rush come through the ranks in the same way that you guys watched Robbie Fowler come through the ranks. And I couldn't quite believe what I was watching with Ian Rush. That guy was phenomenal. The best way I can sum up Robbie Fowler's introduction was, we knew we were going to lose Ian Rush, but it didn't matter because we had Robbie Fowler. You can't give somebody a bigger accolade than that. You know, Ian Rush was and still is the leading goal scorer in Liverpool history, and I don't think that will ever be beaten. and he was electric and he was lethal. But Robbie Fowler was a very different player, and Ian Rush was a quiet, unassuming young man who almost didn't get in the team. And then when he broke through, he went off and scored all these goals. And then Robbie Fowler comes in. He's got a bit of swag. He's got a little bit of Scouse humour. He's got the toxic of terror, as he's always referred to in him. There was always an edge with Robbie Fowler, and I think that's why he connected with the fans. For me, Michael Owen was comes from Chester type of thing. Was bred to be a footballer. Was a very different person in terms of the way he went around with the fans and stuff. Which is why I think Liverpool fans took Robbie Fowler to their heart so quickly, and not so Michael Owen. I think that's fair enough to say. But again, the fact that we were going to lose Ian Rush and he was going to be replaced by Robbie Fowler, I know the lads I went the match with in them days, they were more than happy as that being our sort of the new generation, the guy who was going to bag all the goals, and boy, he did bag some goals. So come back to you, Jay, on this one, this subject here, the Gerard Houllier influence. Now, it's well documented there were problems within this management reign. But I also think Gerard Houllier had quite a positive effect on Robbie Fowler's professionalism. So I'll come to you on that. Obviously, you've listened to Robbie talk in podcasts and things. How big a part did Gerard Houllier play in turning Robbie Fowler from the little scamp into a top-class centre-forward?
I don't know if I should play devil's advocate with that, to be honest, because I think Robbie Fowler was a top-class centre-forward before Houllier came into the fray. I think Houllier had a preference of his strikers, and I don't think Robbie Fowler was one of those people. I think Houllier, for me, I don't think there was much of an influence on Robbie, I'll be honest, in terms of how he played his game. Certainly from his professionalism, yes, I do think there was that, and there was that little bit more of, what's the word I'm looking for, bring him down a peg or two in terms of like the antics that he would get up to in terms of like, the sniffing the goal line and those types of things, sort of pulling him back, bringing the reins in, a bit more discipline. That was the word I was looking for, a bit of discipline. I still think Robbie was a top class striker before Gerard Houllier came to the club. And when Gerard Houllier came to the club, Robbie Fowler was our best striker, regardless of Michael Owen emerging on the scene. I mean, Michael Owen was still a fantastic player, don't get me wrong, but I still think Robbie was our best forward. I think the way his injuries had plagued him, especially in the 99-2000 season, and the issues that had happened on the pitch, his mind was somewhere else, and he was of a mind to leave. And I don't think Houllier would have put that much of the brakes on that deal. I think if the Arsenal bid had come in officially, I think there would have been a mind of Houllier going, yeah, okay, you can go. But obviously that changed in the treble year when Fowler had a lot more influence on a lot more games than probably what Houllier thought he would have done, because we all know his preferred strike partnership was Heskey and Owen. But when Fowler did play, he gave Houllier a headache, which was great. That's what all strikers do, which is why Fowler started the League Cup final and Michael Owen didn't even get a kick. And that says everything about Robbie Fowler. And for me, the influence that Gerard Houllier gave Fowler was it gave Fowler that I've got to prove myself now, because he proved himself when he first came into the squad. And then from that year, bang, bang, bang. Under Souness, he was great. Under Roy Evans, he was part of the backroom staff anyway. So when Evans took over, he was like, well, Fowler's the man, so he's going to go straight in. So there's never really that pressure for Fowler to be like, oh, I've got to impress someone, whereas he had to do that. So in a way, that's the influence that I would definitely agree with, is that Gerard Houlier's come in and gone, listen, mate, you might not be my number one. Fowler's gone, well, listen, I know I'm the best striker. And if, when you look at the stuff that Fowler's wrote over the years, you always believe that. And the best strikers do, don't they, to be fair? So I think from that influence, it made Fowler, for the first time in his career, have to go, I've still got to prove myself, which is great. It's never a bad thing.
I think the point, I totally agree with everything you just said. I think the point I was getting at was and Mick will bring you in on this. It was well documented that Gerard Houllier was the guy that sort of completed what Graham Souness tried to do, which was take the drinking culture out of the football club, because they used to have beers on the coach under the seats and stuff like that, and the diets were terrible. So, as I say, I'm going to bring you in on that, Mick. I mean, obviously Robbie Fowler benefited from that, but as Jay quite rightly says, that it didn't really work with the Gerard Houllier relationship. Having done a bit of research yourself as a long-standing Liverpool fan, how much influence do you think Phil Thompson had in Robbie Fowler's exit? Because there were well-documented problems between those two, wasn't there?
Yeah, I think obviously it was, but I mean, like Jay said, it's you want to look back at his career like positively, and I mean, whatever happened. I mean, maybe if it wouldn't have happened that year, it might have happened another year. I suppose it's just a clash of personalities. Phil Tomo was a massive character as well, and he was a massive player for Liverpool in his time. So it was just one of them. Obviously, there was a bit of a clash there, and loggerheads happened, and yeah, and unfortunately, Fowler left, which is one of the. I mean, just going back to Jay's documentary again that he made, that was one of the moments where I was like, it got me in the throat a little bit because it brought back those memories when that happened in 2001 when I was like a 10-year-old, and I was like, oh wow, this is actually happening. He's actually leaving, and that like did like rip me up a little bit at the time. So that was a moment. But yeah. It's. I mean, he went on to do good things for other clubs as well. But I mean, the whole leaving and then coming back thing was just tremendous. Absolutely loved it, and it is a shame the way it happened with the injuries and stuff like Jay's just been saying. Like the injuries he had, I think he played just over 10 games. Then the following year he played nearly 50. I mean that says a lot. That he was capable of those numbers, but he just maybe his body wasn't playing ball that year in particular. And I think he, like I said, he was probably the last generation that kind of were the type of they went out drinking, and he had to kind of adapt. And obviously Hewley brought in that influence that he didn't want to have any players doing that. And I think it was just trying to find that fine balance between someone who is just one of the best ever, and you're trying to shackle that. And in a way, I don't know if that maybe takes something away from the player who that's all they know. That's all they've known throughout their whole career as a player. So yeah, I mean it's a shame the way it all panned out, but I mean that made it even more sweeter for me when he did come back, because then we got that moment where he came back home, and that was just hairs on the back of your neck stand up moment. I think
that was unreal, that wasn't it? I couldn't believe it was happening because it was like the most un-Rafa Benitez thing to do, but it was it was absolutely right at the time, and he was buzzing and we were buzzing, and we got God back and everything was great, and eventually got his number 9 shirt back as well, which was even better. Rack, just coming to you, mate. Why do you think his England career struggled? What would you put down other than potentially Alan Shearer as the main reason for that? Why wasn't Robbie able to break down and get himself an established career internationally?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think there were other decent strikers around. You had obviously Shearer and Sheringham. Les Ferdinand was doing bits at Newcastle at the time as well, I think Venables and even subsequent that they I don't think they could find a spot for him. And then obviously when things got even tougher, when he started getting more and more injuries, so it was difficult. I feel like he it would have been good if he got a fairer crack of the whip. But all of those strikers were good, and England at the time didn't necessarily play to his strengths more than anything. And at the time when I was growing up, I kind of watched and paid a bit more attention to England than I do now. And it was at the time it was disappointing though, because I always wanted Robbie to play. I always wanted to see him play because he was electric in the box, and he could make something out of nothing. But never quite happened. But mainly because I don't think England played to his strengths, and because there were also other good strikers around. So yeah, that's the way it was.
So I'm going to ask you guys on a couple of occasions, just for key moments in his career, your favourite things from his, and things like favourite goals and favourite moments. And we'll start with favourite moments. It doesn't have to be a goal, something iconic that we remember Robbie Fowler for. So, we talked about celebrations, we talked about the personality. Doug, from what you've seen of Robbie Fowler, what would be your sort of endearing moment for him that isn't necessarily a goal?
I think it was that reception when he came back against Birmingham. And it was when he was denied his long return of a goal as well. It was like that offside decision. You were like, oh, it's like it would have been the dream return for Robbie, but it's just I just thought the anticipation of that game and him being welcomed back into Anfield was fantastic, and that's goosebumps for you, I think.
Absolutely right, mate. So Mick, for you, what would be, doesn't have to be a goal, an iconic Robbie Fowler moment? I mean, there's a great suggestion there. I'm sure someone will pick that up in some part today. But the one thing that, if you're sat in the pub with your mates having a beer, and you're recording Robbie Fowler things, what would be your go-to? What would be the thing you'd say that, the lads would be able to relate to and say, oh, totally spot on, mate?
Yeah, I think it's hard to talk about Robbie Fowler without talking about goals, though, isn't it? That's
You can
literally
do
he
that,
was he
that's
was the
fine, yeah.
main man in front of goal. I mean, Jay covered it pretty much perfectly in the documentary, obviously. But like the incident at Arsenal where he goes over and he gets up and says, "Oh, to the referee, it wasn't a pen." And that's like, who does that? No one does that. And that was like obviously good mates with David Seaman. He didn't want to get a pen, missed the pen anyway. Said he didn't do it on purpose, but I still reckon a little bit in his head he was like, "Oh, fucking hell, I feel bad taking this." But yeah, just I mean, you could talk about goals all day. I mean, like Doug mentioned it before. I think about the sniffing the line and celebration, and just that was just the type of character he was, and that is just one of the most iconic celebrations that you'll ever see. Like it was just. You're just like, what the fuck's he doing? It's just like, obviously, it's the perfect retaliation to what was going on in the crowd. And it was basically a 2 fingers up to them and go, well, yeah, I'm just going to bang in another load of goals against you as well. But yeah, I think goals wise, like, I mean, the one against Bran where he just flicks it over someone's head in Jay's favourite kit, that was just next level. That is like, how do you even think to do that? And then to pull it off was just something else. I mean, there's goals against Man United, and then he scored about 300 against Aston Villa, didn't he? But yeah, I just think goals scored. Like you watch a compilation of his goals, and there's literally every imaginable goal in there. Like taking people on headers, left foot, right foot. There's one floating around this weekend actually on Twitter, like from his England days. Weirdly, we've just been talking about that. It takes like 2 people on and chips the keeper with his right foot, and I think that encapsulates what Robbie Fowler is. He was just a talent, whether it was both feet or in the air or hold up play. He had literally everything, and I think that's. I mean, we were lucky to have him for as long as we did.
Totally agree. Bonus question to you, Jay. Who scored the rebound in the Arsenal penalty?
Jason McAteer.
Spot on, mate. And got a bollocking for it by all accounts as well, mate. You know what I mean? He was never not going to put that in, was he? So
it was his first. It was his first league goal as well. So it was a nice little story behind that as well. So
yeah, it was that. But it was like Mick says, that's a measure of the man where he jumped up and said, no, he didn't touch me. You know, in a world where we go out of our way to pull up players who died and who simulate and cheat. I thought that was symptomatic of Robbie Fowler, who's just a genuine guy, wasn't he? So coming to you with a similar question, mate. Go on.
He got the UEFA Fair Play trophy, I think, for that. Because of that gesture. Mm-hmm. So yeah, at least he got some kind of international recognition for it as well, which is quite.
He did. He got that from UEFA, but then 2 weeks later, he got a massive fine from UEFA for the Dockers T-shirt celebration.
Oh yeah. That was in the UEFA Cup, wasn't it?
Yeah, 1 week as a hero with UEFA, the next week he's a villain. Quite funny.
Yeah. Interesting.
Just guys, whilst we've got people commenting, anyone want to pick up and have a response to anyone rate Mark Wright? He was decent. Mick, Jay, do you want to run with that one?
Yeah, I rated Mark Wright. I really did. I think he's quite an underrated centre half for Liverpool. When we talk about Liverpool centre halves, given the level of centre halves we have right now, Mark Wright was sort of underrated for me. In terms of when he came to the club, England international, played at the World Cup, really added that stability to a back line. And what I loved about Roy Evans is he played a back 3 of centre halves, and he sort of commanded that back line because we had some really good wing backs in Jason McAteer and Stig Bjorneby, who again, I could do a podcast on Stig Bjorneby. I absolutely loved him, but I really rated Mark Wright. Mick.
Yeah, I mean, echo that. I think he was just a towering presence, weren't he? I think he was. Took no shit, and he just a good old fashioned centre half who could actually play on the ground as well, and typical like Liverpool fight and grit. And he was one of them that kind of, I mean, injuries himself didn't do him any good, but I think for the time he was there, he was always he was one of the first names on the team sheet. I think in terms of what Roy Evans wanted to achieve on the field, I think he was definitely one of the best.
Hard as nails as well.
The only thing I'd say about him, because I remember when him and Dean Saunders came in, and they both came in from Derby, and there was was a lot of hype because Saunders obviously was banging goals left, right, and centre. Mark Wright was highly touted, and even though I think he performed well for Liverpool, I in a way I don't think he necessarily lived up to what we thought we were going to get, because I thought we were going to get arguably the best centre half in England, and I don't think he ever really reached those heights. Although he was a good professional and he performed well for us. So yeah, and obviously Dean Saunders, because he's kind of to some extent inextricably linked to Dean Saunders. Saunders didn't really work at Liverpool for him either. So. Or not either. But...
Sort of playing devil's advocate a little bit on Mark Wright was certainly more successful signing for Liverpool than Dean Saunders was. Dean Saunders couldn't play with his back to goal. Put the ball in front of Dean Saunders. On his European debut, he scored 4 goals for Liverpool, so he clearly was a good player with the ball in front of him, but never really fitted into the Liverpool mould of playing with your back to goal. I think Mark Wright, certainly towards the end of his Liverpool career, suffered from not playing in a very good Liverpool team. I think he was better than the players around him. You talk about the wing backs being very good, but we wanted more from Phil Babb, and we wanted more from John Scales, and we wanted more from other players around it, Jan Cavana, and who could not mention Torben Picnic? I mean, what was that? What was Torben Picnic? You know what I mean?
Phil Babb, John Scales, there were some players.
The best thing Phil Babb ever did was Date Joe guest. So that was his claim to fame, wasn't it?
That's a good point.
So just before we go on to Robbie Fowler, someone's just asking us about the weekend, guys. I'm going to put this to you, Doug. Helen's asking who should start the weekend. We will stay with the Robbie theme, but we will respond to the chat as well. So, what do you think is going to happen with the Leeds game? Because obviously we've got a couple of injury concerns, haven't we?
Oh, yeah, I mean, national break. I mean, I hate international breaks. I'm not. I think I'm not the only one either. And obviously, like Naby Keita's found himself in a bit of a sticky situation in Guinea, which is just really, really sad. And at least he's safe and sound. And at least the club are actually in constant dialogue with him. I think it'll be Ali, Trent, Matip, Van Dijk, Roberts. Oh, actually, Robertson's a bit doubtful as well. He's a doubt for tomorrow as well. So I don't know if he'll even play. But I think Robertson will start. I think because of obviously Elliott being injured on England duty, I would probably say it's going to be a Fab, Thiago, Hendo midfield, and then I would say Salah, Jota, Mane.
I can't argue with that, and I think it's about time we saw Thiago start a game as well, because of his ability on the ball is ridiculous, isn't it? So that's a good shout, that, mate. That's one for you, that, Jay. Anyone rate Steve Harkness?
I rated his personality. I thought it was funny sometimes, but yeah, he's wouldn't rate him as a footballer, if I'm honest. But yeah, there's quite an interesting bit of footage that I'm gonna ad lib with my next documentary about Steve Harkness, which I'll show you. Bit of a shame in terms of like his injuries, because obviously he broke his leg when Liverpool got to the FA Cup final, so it was a bit of a shame for him to miss out on the squad for that. But yeah, he wasn't missed. Let's be honest.
No, he wasn't. But it's nice to remember him anyway. That kind of thing. So, just back to Robbie. And this is something that's dear to our heart. Coming home, obviously, the move to Manchester City. Mick, what did you think of his decision to go first of all to Leeds, and then obviously when Leeds fell into financial difficulty? I know he's buying lots of houses in Manchester City, but was that's a bit of an unexpected move, really, isn't it, from Leeds to City?
Yeah, especially after, Leeds were still a really good team at the time, obviously, but spent 2 years there, still done really well. And yeah, the move to City was a bit of a mad one. Obviously, spent 3 years there or something like that. Yeah. So, I didn't think anyone expected them to come back to Liverpool like you said before, Steve. Like that was the most un-Rafa decision ever to bring him back, but it was one that we were eternally grateful to him for. But yeah, obviously he was. Yeah, it was a bit of a bizarre one, but I know he was still scoring goals there, and you could see that even if the injuries were maybe taking a bit more of a toll on his body, and maybe I was going to say his pace, but he was quick, but he was never rapid, was he? But I think that even when he was losing that's maybe a little bit of speed that he had, it still didn't really affect him, because he still had that killer instinct in the box and even outside the box with that left foot. So I think he did well there, didn't he? And I think it kind of just kept him ticking over, and then obviously the coming back to Liverpool was just absolutely icing on the cake. 2006, and I was just like, it was just.
I'm going to get your guys'
for them.
reactions to that in a minute, but with regards to Man City moving, Jay, you'll correct me if I'm wrong. Was Steve McManaman not already there, so that would help Robbie Fowler, or was it the other way around?
Other way around, mate. Yeah, Fowler went,
Right.
and then when Fowler had done his first sort of last part of the season in 2003, that was Macca's last year at Real Madrid, and then he joined Fowler at City that summer. So, but unfortunately, obviously, the partnership just didn't work out as well as it did in the red of Liverpool.
It's interesting that, isn't it? Because Robbie Fowler will tell anyone whoever asks him, that's the player he liked playing with the most, isn't it? So how it didn't work with City is an interesting one, isn't it? Yeah. So it's the Rafa decision to bring him back. It comes up on the television that Liverpool are talking to Leeds. Rack, how did you feel knowing that God was coming home?
I mean, it's like, everyone knows, says they know, I wasn't born, but they know where they were when they found out JFK was killed. I know exactly where I was when I found out that Liverpool were in talks with Robbie Fowler. I was parked outside. I was just about to go and play five-a-side football. I had one of these kind of early smartphones, and I was checking out, I think, Sky Sports or something, and I saw, Fowler linked with possibility of joining Liverpool, or words to that effect. And when you talk about like iconic Fowler moments, for me, there's obviously the goals, the hat-trick against Arsenal, the goals against United in Cantona's return, which are brilliant, and then there's this moment. And I was just like a kid. It was just like, I don't know. For me, Fowler was like the iconic Liverpool player of my childhood, and so for him to come back after when no one could possibly have seen it coming, it was just like, I don't know. I still, like, I get goosebumps thinking about it now because it was just so brilliant, and then I just willed for him to do well, and then that half season where he did do well and re-signed for another season, I was just so happy. I can't put into any better words than that.
Absolutely. So, Doug, your thoughts, your recollections on that time when we brought Fowler back. Obviously, again, being a bit younger than the rest of us. What age were you, and what were your thoughts?
So we're talking 2006. I would have been 14. And I would have been in second year at high school. I found this out when I was actually at school. Someone I remember it well because someone came up running to me. One of my classmates came up running to me. Have you seen the news about Robbie Fowler? I was like, no. And then I. Look, it was just a fantastic time of being a Liverpool fan, knowing that God's coming home, and like that 06-07 season as well. Like you remember it really, really well because he scored a penalty at Sheffield United, and that enraged Neil Warner, but what doesn't enrage him anyway, and then. Like just getting to see him play in that game against Sheffield United at Anfield, my first ever Liverpool game, was just something else, and I knew then that he was a good player. So for him coming home, it just couldn't have been better.
Absolutely spot on. Jay, coming to you, mate. You would have been really key to you, the way you speak about him, the passionate way you speak about him. How did you feel? Where were you? And what were your thoughts? Because if you're anything like I was, mate, you were absolutely buzzing.
Yeah, mate. That day is up there with Istanbul for me as one of the best days as a Liverpool fan. Because he is my hero of all time. He's my favourite player of all time, along with Paddy Berger. So when that happens, it's a big thing. And for those of you that have watched the documentary, I told everybody what I was doing. I'd finished my shift at Asda on Smithdown Road. I was 21 years of age. I had my trolley. I was putting all my stuff in. And then my mate texted me, who's an Evertonian, and said, Fowler's going back to Liverpool, the question mark. So I rang him and said, don't be fucking winding me up, because he's a piss taking me, mate. I said, just don't do it. What do you want? And he just went, no, seriously, mate, I'm at home watching Sky Sports News. So I had a trolley full of shopping, so I just left it in the aisle next to the freezers. I just ran home. Just went home. And then my home was just off Lawrence Road, around the corner of Smithdown. And the lad who I shared my house with at the time was a City fan. So I got in, and he had it on, and he said, "Yeah, it's happening." And I just, couldn't believe it. Absolutely, just arguably one of the best days Liverpool fan. And when I think the deal went through like a day or two later, and I've still got the newspapers to this day, because it's just it's incredible.
You might have even gone to my uncle's pub, the Salisbury, for a beer to celebrate that, mate.
Quite a few times, mate. Quite a few times I went to that pub.
That was my uncle's pub back then, mate. Little Kenny. So, Mick, coming to you. The lads have covered it, mate. But what, in terms of Liverpool Football Club, the enormity of that, the connection with the fans, I thought it was a real masterstroke by Rafa Benitez to sort of reconnect him to the fans a little bit, because obviously we'd been through the Gerrard debacle, and I'm not saying for 1 second he did it to gain favour with the fans, but how big was that for all of us fans? How big was that to get one of our most iconic centre forwards of all time back in the club?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the lads have covered it perfectly. But yeah, it was just, I think Rafa had to kind of explain himself a little bit, because I think people were thinking that is he just doing it to kind of make a connection again with Fowler and the fans. But I think he had to say like that it's because he's a goal scorer, and I think he did prove that. Like, he was penalty spot, bang, you knew who was going to score, and obviously when he did score, it was just one of those moments when, it was just so nice to see that emotion on his face when he did start scoring again in a Liverpool shirt, and just to get to see that ovation the first time he came on at Anfield again for the second time, that was just hairs on the back of your neck, stand up moments. That's just one of them that, like Jay said, it is those moments that if you had to list, like, I don't know, top 20 list, that those moments would probably be in there. Just like Fowler coming home, Fowler's return after being away from the club for what, like 5 years. So, and especially when you didn't think it was ever going to happen, you thought that was going to be it once he left the first time. So to get that chance to see him again, and for him to get that proper ovation, that proper goodbye, the proper, it kind of just ticked all the boxes in terms of what, like that whole thing with Fowler and Liverpool. It was like a fairy tale, and I think the way he left, it was a bit of a shoddy ending to what should have been a proper love story. And I think that return of Fowler to come back again and to give him that opportunity to do that kind of sewing it all up in terms of what it should have been originally. So I mean, probably didn't play as much as he'd like to have during that time when he did come back. But yeah, when he did, I mean, the goals that he scored when he was at the ripe old age that he was, even then, he was still banging them in, and I think he still had the quality. And he didn't need much space, didn't need much time to make his mark. But when he was on the pitch, it was just I don't even know how to explain it, because I think I was 17 or 18 at the time, and I think to get the opportunity to see him again, it was just one of those moments that, like I said, just go down as one of the most special that you'll ever see, really.
Because we don't forget our own, do we? Do we think we're gonna get a similar situation if Steven Gerrard returns at some point as a manager? Are we going to see a similar atmosphere, similar emotional return for Steven Gerrard? Is that what we see happening in future? Just to go off course a little bit.
Yeah, I would say so, mate. I think Gerrard's arguably the greatest player to ever put on the Liverpool shirt, so everybody holds him up in such high regard. I think it's nailed on that he replaces Klopp. I really do. I just think it's written. I would be very surprised if he does. I didn't think it at first. I thought maybe Gerrard might have to go somewhere else, but to keep on the topic, I think it'll be an unbelievable day when Steven Gerrard takes the reins as Liverpool manager, and just praying it goes well, because I'd hate it to go the way Lampard. Just praying it goes well.
Yeah, I think he's still young, isn't he? In his tenure, he's been in Rangers for 3 years. If Klopp does stay till 24, and if he stays at Rangers, hopefully he might go somewhere else. I don't know where.
But Mick's right though. I think it's still down. I mean, Mick said something right on our podcast the other week. Was you've got to get the right man for the job. I mean, I don't want to go too off topic on this, but
it's cool, mate. We've got time.
At the end of the day, it's whoever's right for the job at the time. If it's not Steven Gerrard in 2024, then you go with somebody else. Forget the sentiment behind Steven Gerrard being the next Liverpool manager. It's got to be the best man for the job. And if Gerrard's not at that level yet, then that's absolutely fine. We go for somebody else. But it will happen one day. I'm not saying that Steven Gerrard's got into management not to manage loads of different clubs and not Liverpool. Of course, that's his ideal job. but make sure it's at the right time, not just a case of, right, Klopp's gone,
100%.
let's just get Gerrard in. It's got to be the right person at the right time.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Well
mate.
said, mate. Well said, mate. 100%. Mick, whilst we've got this comment on screen, I mean, I can answer this, but I'll give it to you. What's Toxteth like, the place where Fowler is from?
Yeah, it's all right, but as places go, I suppose it's okay. I mean, there's areas everywhere, isn't there, where you can go right down one street and you'd be like, this is a shithole, and you go down the other end and it's like, this is actually all right. I think it's just one of them. Obviously, I mean, I can't say nothing. I'm from Croxteth, so I grew up down the road from Wayne Rooney, so I can't say nothing about where people were brought up. So, but yeah, I mean, it's probably not the best place, but I think that's, in a way, that's a good thing, because it kind of, I mean, you grow up playing footy and then you're coming up against I don't know, your mates or your brothers, and you're playing on a fucking rock hard concrete just outside your house, and that's how you hone your skills. And I think that's what we all do when we're kids. Then we out with our footies for like fucking 6-7 hours after school, and I'm sure Robbie was exactly the same as that. And I think, I mean, it's those, if you're coming from those deprived beginnings, it does kind of shape you and make you 100%. To the player that you are, and makes you a bit more hungry to go on and to succeed. And I think that did help him in that regard.
I think
this is the thing. This is why, like, places like, this is why, like, inner city, you know, everyone talks about street footballers and they're trying to recreate street football. You know, people playing in cages and concrete pitches when they're, you know, for hours on end after football and after school and stuff. I mean, I don't know if it's, I think stuff tends to be a bit more organised these days, but those skills and stuff that you learn when you're playing in the streets, like, it's really, really difficult to recreate that kind of stuff and that vibe. And when you're playing, you know, I remember playing football till like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, coming home, and that was life back then. And yeah, I don't know.
I think Toxteth was like any inner city part of any inner city area. Lots of young lads playing football, climbing trees, getting into bits of bother and stuff like that. Obviously, then there was the riots, which changed the face of Toxteth completely. What's Toxteth is now is much more multicultural. There's lots of Somalians who live in Toxteth now, and the area that Mick speaks about where he comes from, that's kind of Toxteth now, if that makes sense. It's kind of where all the working class Liverpool families are from and the surrounding areas. I think Toxteth is a very different place to how it was when Robbie Fowler was there. But, you know, playing football in the street certainly didn't do him any harm, did it? It gave us arguably one of our best ever forwards. So that's cool.
I think Curtis Jones is from there as well, isn't he? I think so. I mean, it produces very, very good footballers. So I mean, if it needs to stay the way it is and it keeps fucking producing nice footy players for us, then yeah, let's carry on with that.
100%. Right. So I'm going to ask you for your favourite goals now of Gerrard. Well, you can of Fowler's career. You can pick a couple if you can't decide on one. I think the one you described earlier, the one in Europe with the flick over the top, I think that's going to be one of yours, Mick, isn't it? So I'll come to you first, because you've already spoken a little bit about that one.
No, I can't.
He's not happy.
I can't. Happy. I already knew I wasn't going to say this one. I just mentioned it in passing before because I wanted to kind of segue to Jay and see if he wanted to have a little chat about it more. But no, I won't go with that one. I'll go for. I think someone say this one earlier against, I think it was against Villa, where he just turned Steve Staunton and just rocketed the top corner. That one's, but then there's also the one against United where he just sends Gary Neville for a hot dog and then he chips Schmeichel, I think.
Smacks it
that one.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, there's loads. I mean, I try and post videos on Twitter now and again, like filthy goal of the day. And at one point, it was basically just a Fowler-a-thon for like about 6 weeks. I was just going into the archives and just digging, just finding these absolute gems and just going, what a player. But yeah, there's so many. I'm trying to think of like a left field one that maybe, yeah, I'll have a little think and see what you say, and I might come back with a cheeky one at the end.
Okay, so the man who was pointing at you, and they were daggers then, weren't they, mate? You dared not go there.
It's Fowler. It's a crew. and it's probably one of the best goals ever. So I mean, and we
we
all know it's Jay's favourite goal,
come
so
on.
I couldn't
We'll
do that.
hand it over to Jay then. Come on, Jay.
I do love Mick. Mick, I love
hear
you. I do. So I do love him. He knows me too well. Yeah, it is basically the 6th of March '97. We're playing away in the Cup Winners' Cup, and yeah, we're playing SK Brann in Norway, and it blows my mind about it because everything you say about that goal just screams Robbie Fowler. The ball's played over from Neil Ruddock to left hand side. Stig Bjorn a bit, Cushion's header from the left hand side. It's behind Fowler, so he decides to just dink it with his back heel over the defender, and on the half volley just smashed it in the bottom corner. But the finish was just so Fowler, and the fact that that was just such an incredible goal, and it was in the Ecru kit as well. Just great for me, that. So yeah, so for me that is my favourite Robbie Fowler goal.
And there's nobody in this room who could have put that any better than you just did, mate. So do appreciate that. Rack, coming to you for your thoughts on. I know you mentioned the Aston Villa goal, but any others that spring to mind?
Yeah, look, the Villa goal and the goal against United, where he smashes it past Schmeichel at the near post. Those two stick out. I think there was also one in the Carling Cup final. I think that was a long distance. Was it the Carling Cup final? It was in that year anyway, where
Worthington Cup final, mate.
Yeah, well, yeah, whatever it's called, whatever it was called back then. So yeah, that was I think that was the game that he actually started. Whereas I think Heskey and Owen started the FA Cup final and the UEFA Cup that season. So yeah, but yeah, the one against Schmeichel and especially because it was Cantona coming back and they made a big fanfare, and he did score the penalty, Cantona, to make it 2-2, but still, like, Robbie Fowler stole the show that game.
That was never in a million years a penalty. I'm not having that.
No, Jamie Redknapp says that as well, doesn't he? Definitely not.
It was all done for it. It's like this thing. Go on.
Yeah, Steve Staunton turn just sticks out in my memory because Staunton obviously used to play for us as well, so he was a Liverpool legend, but he got turned inside out by that, and it was a sweet strike. So yeah, those two.
I can't believe he fell for the inside of the standing leg trick, which then plays the ball around him, and then Fowler just sort of cut across that ball, and it was still rising when it hit the back of the net. It was a strike. Hell of a strike, wasn't it? Doug, coming to you, your thoughts on probably your favourite Fowler goal?
Oh, goodness me, I've got too many. There's Charlton away when we clinched Champions League football. The one where he's back to go and all he does is like a wee bicycle kick and it goes into the back of the net. The Leicester hat-trick goal, the one where the ball's kind of gone up in the air and Fowler's just basically gone with his left foot and it's gone straight into the corner of the net. I remember that one as well, but there's so many. I'm going to probably go a bit left field. There's free kick against Manchester United, I think in 93-94. The one where like he's basically got Schmeichel basically to one side and he basically puts it in the other end. I thought that was just genius.
There was no pace on that free kick at all. He didn't need to because he'd spotted the wrong-footed Schmeichel and he was never going to make the ground, so he just made straight to target. But it was brilliant. I think for me, there's a couple. I think the one you talk about where he used his hips to knock Gary Neville off the ball and then lifted it over Schmeichel, you can't ignore that. Funnily enough, when I worked at Wade Smith, one of the lads played for Marine and they played against Liverpool A team. And Liverpool A team got to double figures. I think Fowler got 6 or 7 of them. And he said at one stage, I'm going to flatten this lad because he's pissing me off. So he went shoulder to shoulder with him and he said, mate, he's not going anywhere. I couldn't knock him off the ball. He's for someone so small, and he was small when he broke through. He looked tiny on the pitch, didn't he? He just had like that wiry strength that all good footballers seem to find, and you just couldn't knock him off the ball. But my other one, purely because of the celebration, it's not a great goal, but who couldn't forget the header against Newcastle where he followed the ball into the net on his chest and headed the ball back into the back of the net. That's like an impulsive celebration, and he was full of those, wasn't he? And he played really well in those games against Newcastle as well, the 4-3s. They were tremendous, and he certainly played his part in that. So that really, but like you've all said, there's so many you could choose from. You could sit here all night talking about his goals, and at some point we probably should. But you know, he's just a scorer of tremendous goals. Either foot, he was tremendously good at his right foot, considering he was left-footed. Good in the air for a little guy, and he always used to find the corners. Always found the corners, and I think that's what makes him revered as one of the best finishers we've ever had. So I'm going to come to the final question, and I'm going to come to all of you to give me an answer on this. And it is, where does he rank amongst LFC strikers? So I'll start with you, Doug. So we've had a few. I want to know your top three, and is Robbie in your top three?
Robbie would be my top three, yeah.
Where's and what position is he, and why is he there?
It's so difficult because I absolutely loved Luis Suarez as a player. He was just an absolute genius, but I loved Torres as well. Broke my heart when he went to Chelsea, and I don't think he was the only one that broke people's hearts as well. My order would probably be Fowler, Torres, Suarez for me.
Cool. Okay, that's fair enough. Torres was an interesting one. It was like somebody reached in and switched him off one day, wasn't it? He just stopped playing, and he was absolutely for 18 months, mate. He was absolutely unplayable. I can forgive him the move to Chelsea because of how good he was. While you've got him in your list, mate, and Suarez for me is probably technically the best footballer Liverpool have ever had, despite all the shithousery before and afterwards, mate. But he was a top player. Rack, can you give me your three, please, pal, and the reasons for that?
Look, Rush is a difficult one because obviously he's our all-time goal scorer, so he has to be in the conversation. But I didn't see as much of him play. I didn't really see him in his prime as much. So even though I think he's undoubtedly in there, as a personal thing, I wouldn't be able to. I can't appreciate him as much as perhaps you do, Steve. So for me, it would be. Yeah, Suarez, Torres, and then Fowler. In terms of players that I saw play at the absolute peak of their powers, because Suarez was a force of nature. That 13-14 season, in my opinion, the best individual season by any player in the Premier League. Torres, we beat Real Madrid 5-0 on aggregate in the Champions League. How often does that happen? That doesn't happen,
Should have been 10, mate. But I could see us, it would have been 10. Yeah.
and Torres was magnificent in certainly in that game at Anfield, and I think over the tie in general, he was the best striker in the world for that 2-year, 18-month period.
He was.
And Fowler, just for all the memories he gave me as a kid, and Rush probably should be in there, but I don't know where.
Mick, your thoughts on that?
I was just thinking to myself, no one said Michael Owen yet, and I know Jay is the cogs are whirring in Jay's head. It's about my. No, I think Michael Owen. I don't know if he makes me three, but I mean he's got to be mentioned. He's got to be. He was fucking unbelievable. Just made it look easy. Just made it look so easy. I mean, I think his game was about that pace and that finishing. I mean, obviously when he lost that pace, he wasn't quite the same, but he was still amazing. The only thing that annoys me a little bit is that you can't really call Salah a striker because the game's kind of changed a little bit. And I mean, if you encapsulated them all as a forward, then I think Salah might get in mine, if I had to.
Well, I'll tell you what, Mick, because he's an inside forward, you can select him if you want to.
Or wait until he's finished his legacy at Liverpool. So just talk about players that aren't playing anymore, just to make it easier.
No, but
genius.
You've got to give the players that are playing now the due, because I think when you mention like best of all time, I think you can't. It's the cliche thing to go, well, you can't pick the players who are playing now because they, like you said, they haven't finished. But Salah would be up there for me. But yeah, I think I was just trying to be a bit different to what the boys have said, because I think it's going to be the same for me. Like Torres, he was just like that synergy he had with Steven Gerrard was just. You don't get that. It was just telepathic. Like the goals that the Newcastle one just stands out for me straight away. Where Gerrard, like Torres heads it back, Gerrard then controls it with his head, then his chest, then plays an eye of the needle past with his left foot round the defender. Torres then fucking sends the keeper for an echo and just like slots it. And I was like, it was stuff like that where it became the norm because we were so used to watching it. But now that you can look back on stuff like that and goals like that, you realise just how good that partnership was and just how good Torres was. He was electric.
Yeah.
I think Suarez is obviously in there as well because he was just, I think when Steven Gerrard says the best player he's played with is Luis Suarez, or the best striker I should say, and I think you need to take that it holds some weight, because I think as an all-round footballer, Luis Suarez was just, I mean, he was an absolutely fucking mental, wasn't he? Let's be honest. He was crazy, but he was
different level.
Fine line between genius and craziness, as they say. So, but he was like, even when you watch his goals back now, it was just he was on a different level to everyone in our team and everyone in the Premier League as well. So I think, yeah, Fowler, Torres, and Suarez. But I'm interested to see what Jay says, to be honest.
Well, we're going to find out now, aren't we? Because the spotlight's on you, Jay.
I know. It's hard, isn't it? Because, like you said, mate, if you go off pure goals to then what they produce for the club and trophies, then none of us have mentioned Kenny Dalglish yet. Do you know what I mean? So that's, people always go, it's either Kenny or Gerrard is the best ever player to put on the shirt. So why isn't Kenny up there, and why isn't Rush? Because he scored 346 goals for Liverpool. I think I'll stick along the lines of what the lads have done in terms of the generation you grow up in. I'll stick with that.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm unfortunately going to drop out Ian Rush. I don't, I think if we just do it off all time, Rushy goes in my top 3 without a shadow of a doubt. Because how can you not have the greatest goal scorer in our history? And then you're missing out Roger Hunt, who scored the most league goals in our history. So it's words of luck. So I'm definitely putting Robbie Fowler in for obvious reasons. Be a bit of a rubbish show if I didn't pick him in the top 3. But he's up there anyway. So yeah, he's definitely in there. Yes, I am going to put Michael Owen in there because of the pure elation and joy he gave me growing up. I think the fact that FA Cup final in 2001 is a lost legacy because of a certain shirt he wore in 2009, which again, let's do another show on that controversy because that would be quite interesting. I think people have got short memories, and I think a lot of people need to have a look at what Michael Owen actually did for our football club, especially in that treble season, because without his goals, that treble season wouldn't have happened. So for me, yeah, Michael Owen is definitely in there. I was 16 years of age when that FA Cup final was on. I had my first pint that day as well. So I am definitely putting Owen there as well, just the pure joy he gave me as a kid. And yeah, absolutely, I'm chucking Torres in there as well. Just again, as you're growing up and you adulthood and you go in the game a lot more, and watching Torres was just an absolute joy. And like Mick said, to echo what he said, that partnership he had with Stevie was incredible. Yeah, I've not put Suarez in there, mainly because it was like, he was incredible. Don't get me wrong, he was. I feel a bit sorry for him that he played a year and a half in a crap Liverpool team. It was only 13-14 where it was shone, wasn't it, massively, and then he left, unfortunately. So great pleasure to have him at the football club, and he's, if you play with
guys, he's back. We lost him for a second there, didn't we? Did you guys lose him as well for a moment then?
Yeah, I lost for a couple of seconds.
Yeah, I seen Steve clicking his mouse when he was talking about Owen. Didn't want to hear anymore.
No,
Mute.
I agree. This is really difficult for me because my first ever game was Liverpool 7, Tottenham 0, and it was that goal where they did the 4 touches. And Terry got you.
Yeah, got you.
Terry McDermott heads it in, and from that moment on, I grew up on Kenny Dalglish, Ian Rush, Robbie Fowler, Torres, Suarez, Salah. You have to, when Salah's career is done, and we talk about goal scorers, let's call them goal scorers as opposed to forwards, strikers. I mean, let's be honest, they dropped the name striker because it doesn't sound cool and decided to call them forwards. It was only a media thing. There's no difference between a striker and a forward. Salah will be at the top table alongside the likes of Thierry Henry in that conversation because his numbers are insane. Do you know what? If he was clinical, he'd get 50 goals a season. He misses too many chances that you're ready to celebrate and then he misses. But not knocking him, the guy's ridiculous and his availability is sensational. And I have touch wood, He's been ever available, hasn't he? Really. So for me, it's really difficult. You talk about Kenny Dalglish. Always see Kenny Dalglish as a second striker rather than someone who played really up top like Torres did, or like Suarez was a different type of line leader, but he still led the line in terms of his movement. And Fowler was a number 9. So it's difficult for me to say Kenny Dalglish is comparable with any of those guys because more a creator rather than a goal scorer. That said, he still scored 300 league career goals, which takes some doing, by the way. But he was more. Ian Rush would tell you how good a creator he was. So I can't not have Ian Rush as my number 1 because he just scored 30 odd goals every single season. Then went away to Italy for a year sabbatical, came back and did it again. And I can remember coming out of the ground with my best mate and just all the talk, walking down the road to get the bus. Everyone was all talking about Ian Rush because he was just electric. Kevin Ratcliffe, who played in the centre half for Everton, wasn't slow, but Rush used to murder him every time he played Everton. He'd play off his shoulder and absolutely ruin him. The game when he scored 4 goals and Mark Lawrenson got the other one was just a perfect display of a number 9 running in behind. So I'd probably put him at the top of the tree because of, like you, all of the things he gave to me as a kid growing up. It was just Ian Rush. Second for me would be Torres because, as we've all alluded to, that guy was absolutely unplayable. He had everything. He was strong. He was quick, good in the air. The goal against Blackburn, the sort of this Van Basten type volley from out wide. The goals against Chelsea, the goals against United, absolutely ruined Vidic. God knows how many times. I can forgive him his move for all of those things. I really can. And I'd put I'd put Fowler in just above Suarez in 3rd place because Suarez played for Suarez and still plays for Suarez, if that makes sense. So whilst he was very good and the team was dragged up around him, he played football for himself. I genuinely believe he played football for himself. And if you read his book, he says, when my teammates lost the ball, I got irritated. When they didn't pass me the ball, I got irritated. When they didn't do this, I got irritated. And I played the whole game an inch away from exploding, an inch away from hitting the ceiling every single game. And that makes all the things that Mick said before about him and the way he was, like an inch away from being a lunatic. That's perfect description of him. It really is. So I couldn't put him in for that reason, but some really good numbers there and some really good names. And God, we've been blessed with some special centre forwards, haven't we, over the years? But notice the word God in there. He's an absolute legend of the club, and that brings us kind of to the end of our stream for tonight, guys. It's been a pleasure having you on, talking to you about all things Robbie Fowler. I'm going to go and watch some Robbie Fowler videos on YouTube now.
Yeah, I was thinking exactly the same thing.
yeah, because it shouldn't be forgotten, and you don't get the nickname God for nothing, do you? So, Jay, tell us what you're up to and where we can get you, pal.
Find me at the Cop Out podcast, boys and girls. That's where I do a lot of my stuff. With young Michael, we said before about Toxteth going down one road where it's a shithole. If you go down one road in Crocky, you look like Wayne Rooney. If you go down another road in Crocky, you look like Mick Moran. So that's the right there. But yeah, I'm on the Coback podcast and just plodding along with the documentaries. So obviously, like we said at the top of the pod, Robbie Fowler one's out. Go and watch it, and then once you've watched that one, watch the Patrick Berger one. And I always say, once the Robbie Fowler one gets to 1,000 views, I will let you know who episode 3 is, and then hopefully before the end of the year, we'll get the story of a Crew film that I'm working on coming out. It keeps getting delayed because it keeps getting bigger and better. So that's the only reason why I can say that it's not come out yet, because it's getting a lot better than what I first wanted it to be. So I'm quite happy about that. So, but yeah.
Just before I come to Mick, who's going to tell us, obviously, your foot and himself alongside you, how long does it take you to put those videos together?
Obviously, it depends on the tenure of the player. So if they've been at the club a long time, it takes a lot longer. But you're talking, it was a good 2 months to put the Fowler one together. But if you want to go for hours, if you're going to go constant hours, it took 77 hours to put the Fowler one documentary together. Because of pure research, rereading books, looking at other stuff, making sure you got your stats right, finding the right footage, composing the music. My brother composes the music in the Fowler documentary, and he gives it that retro synth feel.
and then finding the footage, the photographs, making sure you got permissions and everything. So it took 77 hours to do the Fowler one, for an example.
Wow. Big up to you, makes it a bit special. That Mick, what have you got coming up on your channel this week? Have you got post-game, pre-game, all that type of stuff coming up, or what's happening?
Yeah, we've got Leeds on Sunday, haven't we? So, the Klopp presser should be on the Friday. So, me and Jay will probably do something on the Friday sometime. Obviously, like I said, there's a lot of stuff on Twitter, injury news-wise, which I've not been reading too much into because, to be honest, I've been so bored by people just absolutely crapping themselves over injuries that I've just been literally, I've switched off completely. I'm just going to see what Klopp says on Friday, crack on from there, because I can't honestly be bothered with listening to people just 100%. Crying on Twitter, because it's just so boring now. But yeah, Friday, I'll try and be as positive as I can going into Leeds, because we're doing quite well. I've got 7 points out of 9. I think we're doing all right. People seem to think we're not doing so well, but I think we are. In terms of other shows, got Famous Fans, which, me and Jade's on the first one with Harvey from So Solid Crew, which was a bit mad to do for me, because he's a bit of a hero of mine growing up. So that was like, wow. I had to get a few beers down my neck before I could speak to him, because I was crap myself a little bit, but it went well. And then we done one with DJ Spoonie, who was another massive Red, and he was telling us about all his stories, about what he's been up to, and then obviously doing all that radio work and whatever, and that was a boss little story he told us. And then
I'm playing You Never Walk Alone at Old Trafford. Legend.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yes. Absolutely legendary for that. But yeah, and then the one after that was Paul Smith, Scouse boxer, and he was another. I could have spoke to him for about fucking 4 hours, but I had to squeeze it into an hour. But that was another boss one. But so episode 4, I haven't recorded it yet, but I've had a few discussions with the person, and hopefully we'll do it in the next week or two. But I've been trying to get 5, 6, and 7 sorted as well. So I'm trying to get the building blocks in place for that one. And yeah, match preview Friday, and then obviously what everyone does really, match preview, team news show, and match review, and whatever else. And I think with the boys back and Van Dijk back and whatever else, this week's just been a bit mad. Obviously, international breaks, you kind of just switch off from everything, don't you? Especially after you've only played 3 games, you're just getting into the swing of it. You're going back the game again. You're going to the pub and having a beer. Oh, wait there, England are playing again, and you're like, oh god. So everything just gets press pause on, unfortunately. But now, hopefully, obviously going away to Leeds, it's been a long time since Premier League game away to Leeds. That was just a proper rivalry that I can't wait to see renewed, and they've got a good side, and it's going to be a tasty one on Sunday. So I'm looking forward to it.
Me too, mate. So guys, give these guys a follow on their individuals. Pick up their YouTube channel, subscribe to that. There's a lot of good content on there. I know how hard it is to try and pin people down. I once interviewed Elton Wellesby, who's a sort of a demigod for footballing commentary and punditry. That was interesting, and getting him on was even more interesting. So I know how hard you work to get people on, mate. It's not easy. So big up to you, much kudos for getting the names you're getting, mate. It's all good, and I'll check those out. Doug, what have you got coming up this week, pal? Where can we get you?
Yeah, you can find me on the Dugout Football channel. I've just realised, obviously, I've had Mick on my channel, I've had Steve on, I've not had Rack yet, and I've not had Jay yet. So need to arrange something to get them on as soon as possible. But yeah, I'm pretty much the same. I've got a Leeds preview coming out, and probably a match reaction as well. So yeah, come and find me at the Dugout Football channel. But follow me on my socials as well. Enrods1992 for Twitter. And I, like Mick, I'm just going to wait for the Klopp presser. Because the last thing I saw on Twitter is obviously our leaked 3rd kit that obviously looks like a McDonald's outfit. So, yeah. But thank you very much for having me on as always.
That will not be a shirt you buy in 15 years' time, Jay. It really won't, mate, that one.
Nope.
No, it won't, mate. Rat, coming to you. Are you up to anything? Tell the guys what you're doing Friday night, mate. So.
Yeah, is the game on Friday or is it Saturday?
No, you're on my
Sunday
on Friday night, mate, doing that.
Oh yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
What are you getting from the pub? What's your tipple?
Yeah, look, Friday night show is Steve, obviously. Other than that, yeah, I'll be on I'll probably do something on the terrace at some point this week, and I haven't been on Spaces much in the last week. We all know why. Twitter's been a bit of a not so pleasant
They're
place
mental.
to hang out.
They are mental.
People going a bit crazy. So I haven't been on, but I'll probably pop back on there at some point this week. So Twitter Spaces, you can catch me at Raxing1 and here obviously.
Cool, thanks, mate. So catch up me on Wednesday night on Eyes on the Ball TV doing Football Heritage with Daniel Bamaji and some of the other guys. That's a really cool show. We'll look at the top 6. And then Friday night we've got Friday Rivals on Usman Talks United, which is a United station, but he's diversifying now, so he's covering the top 6, and I host that one, so that's a pretty cool watch. And the panel on there is really good, and Rack's in it. And this week the guys are going to do their Premier picks, and then the next Monday night we'll be back here for First 11 Grounded Football Liverpool FC. So for those of you that watched and those of you that contributed, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for coming on, guys. Appreciate that. We'll see you soon.